If you want your phone's battery to last very long, make sure you don't charge it with fast charging enabled most of the time, so you can disable that from the settings and buy a phone with a bigger battery capacity, because the bigger the battery capacity in your phone, the longer it will last in the future. Oh, that's about it really. I mean, if you just wanted the information, you can stop watching the video right now, but if you want to know more about why that is the case, then you can maybe stick around for a few more minutes. Firstly, you have to admit that there are a lot of myths around lithium-ion batteries and how they are supposed to be charged. You have to keep one thing in mind: lithium-ion batteries are not smart. Like, they don't understand how quickly you charge them or how long do you charge them. They just operate based on the voltage applied across them, and that's about it. How long do you apply and how do you apply it entirely depends upon the circuitry present in your phone and the power conversion that happens in your power brick itself. The charging adapters nowadays come with a lot of smart features in them. So they have over voltage protection, and they have dynamic voltage switching, which is nothing but adaptive fast charging, meaning that they automatically switch the voltage to high and low based on the adapter and the phone's temperature. That's pretty smart. But even with all this smartness, unfortunately, lithium-ion technology is not mature to a point where we can say that it's a long-lasting tech that works reliably every single time. You probably recall I've mentioned this in a few of my other videos. The reason why we use lithium-ion is because it's a very reactive battery technology. So it charges up very fast and it drains a little bit slower. So ideally, we can use it with very minimal recharge required. That's what we want, right? We want less time plugging it in and more time using it on battery power. And also, it's the only battery technology that can be malleable into any kind of form factor. So you can have a thin long battery, or you can have a short wide battery. Other batteries can't be easily kind of changed into that kind of a shape to fit inside our smartphones. You can even split those batteries into two compartments and have two smaller units that charge up parallelly, so that they take less space and have a higher capacity in general. That's what most of the modern day phones are doing. But even with all these advancements that we have done, still lithium-ion batteries have tons of issues, right? After 2 years, they won't hold charge for very long. Sometimes the adapter gets hot, sometimes the phone gets hot. So the only real way by which you can preserve the battery's health is by controlling the voltage that's applied across it. And the voltage is, of course, provided by your adapter. Even though I'm a big fan of fast charging, I really think that at this point, fast charging is almost becoming a scam, just like wireless charging. You can check out my opinions on wireless charging in that video. But I think since manufacturers are heavily relying on their fast charging capabilities to sell their phones, I don't think it's a solution really. Because you see, while fast charging does work in the short term, your battery degrades much faster because of the higher wattages. So essentially, your phone will no longer operate at the same battery capacity after a year of using it on the fast charger. And it's not like the older days where you can just remove the back panel and replace the battery yourself, right? Nowadays, all phones are sealed sandwiches that you can no longer open. If you're okay with taking it to a service center after, say, 1.5 years and getting the battery replaced for a couple of thousands, then that's fine, that's your call. But I'm not okay with it. I don't think we should settle for such a kind of manual, mechanical method. So really, a little bit of care from your side, user side, goes a long way. And that care, as I mentioned, comes from two things. One is that there is this awesome option where we can disable this fast charging feature. So you don't have to use the maximum wattage that your adapter is capable of. You can reduce the fast charging voltage back to 5 volts, and you can use it as a normal charger to charge up your battery. This will slow down the reaction in your lithium-ion battery, which drastically reduces heat. Slower reactions are actually good. They are much easier to control, and the overall electrolyte health lasts much longer. Okay, that's fine, but why did I say buy phones with bigger batteries? And what does that have to do with your battery's health? Well, it's common sense really. I mean, see, if you have a phone with 6000 mAh battery and another phone with 3000 mAh battery, now it's a fact that this phone will last much longer because it has much higher capacity to deliver power to your hardware. But also it will last longer in terms of the actual life, because even if, say, after 2 years of usage, both of these batteries get reduced by 50% of their capacity, it's not that bad, but let's assume that they'll reduce to 50%. You are still getting equivalent of 3000 mAh in this battery because it was huge to begin with, but you're only getting about 1500 in this one. So since we are using the same lithium-ion technology, let's not rely on the charging speeds and everything and have the actual physical capacity to back up our daily usage. I mean, I think you will agree that it's better to have a phone that lasts you longer in the day than to have a phone that charges up fast. Because while fast charging is nice to have, it's not really a final solution. The better solution is to have a more stable battery technology, and that's kind of where gallium nitride comes into picture. I've actually made a video about gallium nitride on my second channel. It's about the chargers really, not the battery itself. But yeah, unfortunately, while we are stuck with lithium ion, we have to do these things to ensure that our devices last the longest time and give us the most value for our money. I mean, it's not just a matter of buying a new phone. Like, it's not about whether you can afford to buy a phone or not. It's about environmental waste, right? You should not buy stuff that ends up being e-waste. At least with something that's as crucial as your phone, which nowadays can be used for anything. I'm really happy to see some phones like I guess the recent ROG Phone 5. It has a certain battery percentage limit, so not only can you reduce the voltage, meaning the charging speed at which your phone's battery recharges itself, but you can also reduce the maximum percentage that it can reach. So if you want your phone to top off at 80% and not go any further, you can do that in some phones, which is really nice. I think all manufacturers should include that in the software features. It's a really nice thing to have. Now that I think about it, we should find a way to separate the charging and the USB data transfer sectors into two different things. I mean, we have had phones with multiple USB ports in it, and I mean, some phones like the Xperia Mark II or something that came out with the micro HDMI port, which is pretty amazing, really. I mean, you can have micro versions of ports on your phone. So I really think this fast charging port should be completely different than the data transfer port, meaning that we won't have to charge the battery when you're plugging your phone in to transfer data. Like I plug in my phone to my laptop for a very long period of time when I'm transferring these video files, for example. So I don't want my phone's battery to be charged up every time I'm plugging it in. It's an unnecessary heat, right? You may not notice your phone getting hot all the time, but it may happen because your phone's battery is being charged very slowly and you're simultaneously maybe using it. So that's not really good for your battery's health either, because reactions are happening in the battery at both ways. And when things are happening both ways, it's tough to control and see what happens. That's what she said. But either way, this is where we should start. Disable fast charging in your phone when you don't really need it. For example, if you're not going to be using your phone anytime soon and you don't want that phone to immediately recharge, then disable fast charging from the battery settings. You will find it under battery or something like that. So once that is disabled, you can normally charge your phone. It will usually take an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, depending on your battery capacity. Mine takes around an hour and a half with 4000 milliamp hours. Maybe it's same for you. And no, your battery cannot be trained to kind of reach that particular level. Like, you can't calibrate your battery. Some phones have that feature where you actually calibrate your battery by dropping it to a very low percentage and then slowly rise it to 100, and somehow this trains your battery to switch between those modes gradually. That doesn't happen. Lithium ion battery doesn't have any brains inside it to understand what percentage needs to be maintained how. It just drains based on how much power is being drawn from it with every other component that's connected to that battery. So yeah, trust me, in the long run it will work fine. Whenever you're not using your phone immediately, you can plug it into charge whenever you're taking a bath or something, and you can charge in small intervals. You don't have to charge it at a stretch. If you want, you can charge for 10% now, and after half an hour 10% again, maybe 20% after lunch. It doesn't matter when you charge it, and lithium ion batteries don't care how long you charge them, as long as the voltage is appropriate and you're maintaining that percentage under 100. So in a way, fast charging is a scam. Disable that feature when you don't need it and only enable it when you are in urgent requirement for a fast recharge. And yeah, if possible, buy a phone with a huge battery capacity, which shouldn't be too hard these days, considering 4500, 5000 milliamp hours is pretty standard in almost every phone. So at least the industry is progressing in the right direction, at least on that factor. Okay, that's about it. Hopefully you learned something new. If you have some more questions or any suggestions about these topics, then leave them in the comments down below. I'll try to answer all of them. Subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and as usual, I'll see you next time. Cheers!